White plays knight from g1 to f3.
A flexible start, right? Not committing too early, keeping options open for controlling the center.
Exactly. It's interesting because years later, Vladimir Kramnik had huge success with this very opening move. Shows its depth.
And Fischer, equally flexible.
Yep. Knight from g8 to f6, mirroring the idea. Then white starts pushing in the center, pawn to c4, knight to c3, pawn to d4.
Standard stuff, trying to grab that central space.
Right. But Fischer responds with pawn to g6, then bishop to g7, getting that bishop on the long diagonal.
That's kind of a Fischer trademark, isn't it? Especially when he was younger. Loved those long-range bishops.
He certainly did, and then he castles. King safe, rook ready to potentially join the game later.
Now, white plays bishop to f4. You mentioned this stops Fischer playing his favorite opening.
It does. It prevents the king's Indian defense setup. White's trying to dictate the opening battleground. And then Fischer plays pawn to d5. This whole setup now becomes the Grinfeld defense.
The Grinfeld. What does that imply, strategy-wise? Is it defensive?
Not exactly defensive, more counter-attacking. It's considered a sharp opening. White gets this big pawn center, looks impressive, but black's plan is to undermine it, attack it with pieces rather than meeting it head-on with pawns. Active piece play is the key for black.
Okay, so white has the center, black plans to poke holes in it, then white plays queen to b3, putting pressure on two pawns at once, right? d5 and b7.
Correct. A direct threat. How does Fischer handle it? Does he just defend?
You'd think so, but no. He captures the pawn on c4, pawn takes pawn.
He gives up a central pawn. Seems odd.
It does, but look, white's queen just moved to b3. Now it'd have to move again to take back the pawn on c4.
Ah, so Fischer gains a tempo, a crucial move development-wise. Black gets a free move while white is just recapturing.
Exactly. White takes back with queen on c4. Then Fischer plays pawn to c6, defending that d5 square.
Makes sense. Looking at it with modern eyes, it's maybe a little passive. Well, today, players might prefer something like knight to a6 first, aiming to push the c-pawn to c5 later, challenging white's center more directly. But c6 is solid.
Okay, solid. And white responds by pushing another pawn to e4, creating this, perfect pawn center, d4 and e4 side by side.
Yep, looks very strong. Lots of space, controlling key squares. It looks like white has a clear advantage here.
So Fischer needs to generate that counterplay quickly, right? Before that center becomes a steamroller.
Precisely. He develops his other knight, knight to d7, bringing another piece into the game.
White plays rook to d1, supporting the center.
Ostensibly, yes, but it's maybe not the best move.
Oh, why not?
Well, white still hasn't castled. Moving the bishop, maybe bishop to e2, preparing to get the king safe, would probably have been more useful long-term.
Interesting. A slight inaccuracy. And does Fischer pounce?
You bet. 13 years old, but sharp as attack. He immediately plays knight to b6, attacking the white queen.
Okay, making white react again. And white's response?
Ooh, okay.
Queen to c5. That seems bold, pushing deeper into black's territory.
It's definitely peculiar, not losing immediately, but it's illogical. It feels risky. The queen's getting a bit exposed there.
Almost inviting trouble. Setting the stage for tactics.
Absolutely. Fischer just continues developing, brings his bishop out to g4, pinning white's knight on f3 to the queen, and then comes white's next move.
Bishop to g5. What's the idea here?
Honestly, there isn't much of one. It's a dubious move. It doesn't improve white's position, and crucially,
What?
it leaves the bishop totally undefended, hanging out there on g5 with no protection. A serious oversight.
An undefended piece. That's like blood in the water for an attacker. And Fischer strikes knight to a4. Wow. What does that do?
What a move. It's electrifying. It directly attacks the white knight on c3. And that knight is the only piece defending white's key pawn on e4.
Ah, undermining the pawn center's foundation.
Precisely. Hans Kamon, a famous commentator, wrote about this moment. He said a murmur went through the crowd. People gathered around the board like fish in a frozen lake around a hole in the ice.
You could just feel the drama. So white's in trouble. Why don't they just take the knight on a4?
That leads to immediate pain. If white plays knight takes a4, then Fischer plays knight takes e4.
Oh.
That knight on e4 now forks white's queen on c5 and the loose bishop on g5. White loses material straight away. Plus, there are other threats lurking, like queen to a5 check. It's bad news.
So Byrne can't take the knight. He moves the queen back. Queen to a3. Still eyeing that pawn on e7, maybe?
Trying to salvage something, but the initiative is firmly with black now. Fischer simply carries out his threat. Knight takes c3, removes the defender.
White has to recapture, pawn takes c3, and then Fischer, knight takes e4. Another bold move.
This is brilliant stuff. It's a pawn sacrifice. Fischer gives up his own pawn on e7.
Why?
To blow open the center. He gets open lines for his pieces, especially his rooks later on. He's prioritizing activity and attack over material.
Calculated aggression. White, seeing the center crumble, tries to grab material back. Bishop takes e7. Attacking the queen and rook, a fork.
Looks dangerous for black, right? Like white's finally getting something back.
Yeah, seems like Fischer might lose the exchange or his queen.
But Fischer's ready. Queen to b6. Gets the queen safe and immediately creates new threats against white's position, maybe eyeing the f2 pawn.
Okay, queen saved. White finally develops their last minor piece. Bishop to c4. Preparing a castle, maybe? Seems a bit late for that.
It is quite late. White's playing catch-up. And by the way, if white had tried, bishop takes f8 immediately after taking on e7.
What happens then?
Black just recaptures, knight takes f8, and white's queen on a3 is attacked. Still messy for white. So bishop to c4 it is.
But Fischer isn't letting up.
Yeah.
He plays knight to c3. Another fantastic move.
Yeah, this opens the e-file for his rook on f8, and it threatens to win the bishop on e7 with a move like rook to e8 check.
White sees the threat to the bishop and counters. Bishop to c5, attacking Fischer's queen on b6.
Okay, here's the critical moment. It looks like Fischer might have missed this. The queen's attacked, the knight on c3 looks trapped. Did the 13-year-old finally slip up?
Is he forced to move the queen and lose the knight? Or
he ignores the threat to his queen entirely. Fischer plays rook to e8 check.
wow, activates the rook, forces white's hand.
White has to deal with the check. The only logical move is king to f1. But wait, Fischer's queen is still attacked by the bishop on c5, and his knight on c3 is attacked by the pawn on d4. Both pieces are hanging.
He's just letting them hang there. What's the idea?
This is the absolute peak of the combination. The second truly brilliant, stunning move. Fischer plays bishop to e6.
Bishop to e6. He defends neither the queen nor the knight. Instead, he attacks white's bishop on c4. This feels insane. Is he just giving away his queen?
It's giving away his queen, but it's a calculated sacrifice based on incredibly deep calculation. This tactic works perfectly.
White just takes the queen, right? Bishop takes b6.
Yes, Byrne takes the queen. But here's the genius. What if white had taken the bishop on e6 instead? If bishop takes e6, that would have led to a beautiful, famous, smothered mate. It goes queen b5 check, king g1, knight e2 check, king f1, knight g3 double check, king g1, queen f1 check.
Whoa, slow down. Queen f1 check.
Right. White's only move is rook takes f1, and then knight to e2. Checkmate. The king is trapped, smothered by its own pieces.
Unbelievable. Fischer saw that potential line when he offered his queen.
That's the depth of it. He forced Byrne into a choice, and both choices led to disaster for white. Taking the queen looks safer, but it walks right into another combination.
Okay, so Byrne takes the queen. Bishop takes b6. What now for Fischer?
Now the fireworks really begin. Fischer recaptures, bishop takes c4, check, and this kicks off the famous windmill tactic.
The windmill, what's that?
It's a sequence of repeated checks, often with a knight and bishop working together, that allows one piece to capture multiple enemy units while the king is forced back and forth.
Okay, show us. Bishop takes c4 check.
King moves to g1. Now, knight to e2, check, forcing the king back.
King f1.
Knight takes d4, check, winning back a pawn and still checking the king. King g1 again.
Knight back to e2, check. King forced back to f1.
It's relentless.
Knight to c3, check. Now hitting the rook on d1 as well.
King back to g1. Where does it end?
Right here. Fischer plays pawn, takes b6. He finally captures the bishop that took his queen. This move does three things. Captures material, uncovers an attack on white's queen on a3, and the rook on d1 is still hanging from that knight check on c3.
Total chaos for white. He's recovered almost all the sacrifice material and has this overwhelming attack.
White tries one last trick. Queen to b4. A double attack, hitting Fischer's knight on c3 and his bishop on c4.
Can Fischer save both?
He finds the perfect move. Rook to a4. Defends the bishop, and the knight is indirectly defended because if queen takes c3, then rook takes a2, wins a piece. Just beautiful coordination.
So white has to save the queen. Queen takes b6, grabbing another pawn.
But it doesn't matter. Fischer plays knight takes d1, captures the rook.
Let's take stock. What's the material situation now?
Okay, Fischer, black, has 2 rooks, 2 bishops, an extra pawn. White has a queen, a knight, and 1 rook. But crucially,
what? That white rook on h1. It hasn't moved the entire game. It's completely out of play. So effectively, Fischer has a massive material advantage, and all his pieces are active.
So the game is basically over at this point. Decided.
Absolutely. From here on, it's a question of technique. Fischer just needs to convert his advantage cleanly.
And he does it methodically, right? No rushing.
Exactly. The next phase is just pure precision. He consolidates, improves his piece placement, activates his king, and slowly tightens the net around white's king. White has no counterplay left.
Let's maybe fast forward through some of the mopping up. White pushes a pawn, black grabs another pawn, white's king tries to find safety but can't, black's knight grabs yet another pawn.
Rooks get exchanged off the e-file. White tries a desperate check with the queen, black blocks easily with the bishop.
Black's pieces just swarm the center, bishop to d5, knight to e4, white shuffles pieces, black pushes pawns, brings the king up. It's just a matter of time.
And then the final assault begins. Check after check. Bishop c5 check.
King f1.
Knight g3 check.
King e1.
Bishop b4 check.
King d1.
Bishop b3 check.
King c1.
Knight e2 check.
King b1.
Knight c3 check.
King c1. And the final blow.
Rook to c2. Checkmate. A powerful, decisive end.
As we wrap up, it makes you think, doesn't it? What's your game of the century waiting to happen? Not in chess, maybe, but in whatever field you're in.
Yeah, where can you apply that kind of deep analysis, that creative spark, that methodical follow-through to turn something ordinary into something truly extraordinary?
What hidden possibilities are just waiting for you to uncover and bring to life? Something to definitely chew on.
Indeed. Until next time.